Whenever people become fascinated about NLP language patterns, they usually make some image inside their mind of themselves just saying a few things to their subject and getting exactly the response they want from them. But actually, when you really master unconscious influence, you also realize it is not really about what you say that much, that it is about using what is already inside the mind of your subject so that they make themselves change by themselves. And to that extent, I tend to see the NLP Meta Model as one of the greatest tools ever, but like with any other NLP methodology, it is usually incorporating too many patterns at the same time to be fully understood by somebody just entering the field. One explanation behind that was because it was designed initially as part of a thesis on language for linguists, so it was not initially made to give practical tools right away to people. That part only came later in the development of NLP. But if you want to simplify the whole thing, instead of seeing that as a set of language patterns, maybe just see that as a simple way to increase consciousness. Because when people think it is too complicated, it is usually because they haven't gotten used to investigate internally their own thinking processes. They're not used to open their own thinking, so they think it is a whole new language to learn, whereas it is simply the language that our mind is naturally using every day. It is just you may haven't used it in that specific way yet. Actually, most people just tend to ask themselves rhetorical questions to justify why they are stuck in life, or that will just maintain them into some negative state. Like, why am I such a piece of shit? Why am I still a failure? Those things just tend to imprison people into a negative state. On the opposite, the meta model was made to open consciousness, therefore increasing consciousness, to broadening the scope of attention to how many more things can you think about that can actually resolve a situation, even when you think it is completely stuck. And before giving you a brief overview of how to apply that on yourself and therefore getting that automatic every time you want to open somebody else's consciousness in the same way, I would like to point out you can find down below a whole course on the meta model I had designed years ago that used to be available on my website, no longer there, but you can have it for free if you want with the link down below in the description. And with that in mind, I will just give you a brief overview here of how the meta model can be used on your own thinking and how it can be used to develop your language abilities without having to think about it. So let's start by asking yourself, what is one thing you think you can't do, or one thing that in your life right now you think is completely stuck and there is no possible way to make it change, at least not in the near future. You take that one thing in your mind and you ask yourself, first of all, how do you know that? That is the most essential question you get from the meta model and any kind of language or technology to precise where is the problem. But you ask yourself, how do I know that I am stuck here? What is my actual evidence that I am stuck in this situation, or with that person, or with those set of techniques I can't master into NLP, for example? How do I know I am stuck, or how do I know that X being the thing you want to change and can't, or feel like you can't? Then the whole purpose of the meta model is going to be clarification. But usually when we tell people just clarify, ask specific questions, they just have too many options that they don't know really which one to use based on the sentence or the limiting belief they hear. So whatever is the answer that popped up in your mind when you thought about why am I still stuck here or there, you just clarified, are there any specific people involved in your reasons for being stuck, or the reasons you use to justify why you're stuck? Are there any specific people involved? Is there a specific number to investigate? Because if you have any generalization like I can't lose weight, let's start by the specific number you would like to lose, and how can you know that specific number can't be lost or can't be lost consistently? Or how do you know you can't gain the type of weight you would like? And you can just clarify the numbers like this about number of years, number of days, number of people involved in your dramatic situation, number of actions you would need to take so for any kind of problem. If it is a money thing, how much specifically, what is the number you're aiming for? Okay, so numbers. Then places, is your reason involving a certain geographic place or a certain place in your environment, maybe your room, maybe some place in your office, or is it involving some events and memories from your past? What types of memories, events, or past experiences does that involve? Are you getting blocked because of something that happened in the past or by your perception of that event that is by now over, but maybe the souvenir is still painful in some way? And in that case, the same thing, we want to clarify. Okay, that memory is painful. How do you know it is painful? How do you know that? And therefore you can make that loop turn again and again by clarifying again. Okay, I need to lose that specific weight. I need to lose 10 pounds. Okay, how do I know that I need to lose 10 pounds? And how do I know I can't lose 10 pounds right now? And if you keep digging like this non-stop, at some point you are going to arrive on very, very, very simple problems. Most of the things you think are so dramatic in your life, when you really chunk it down like this, you're going to arrive at the conclusion by yourself that no, it is just very simple things. Maybe you just need to ask that one thing that is uncomfortable to ask to that one person. And that's all. And you may translate that into a whole life crisis thing. You may just need to say one thing to one person. That may be all about it. That can be very uncomfortable, but that can be quite simple in the structure of what kind of problem do you think you have to deal with. Then obviously, if you're a president of a whole country, or if you deal with some billion-dollar company, yeah, in those cases, maybe it is going to require some more resources. But even in those cases, some of the greatest coaches who do consulting for huge companies, they still use versions of that meta model. They may not call it like this, they may have other names, but they still use exactly the same type of language patterns in the end. And at the end of this process, and something that was not really detailed so effectively in the original work on the meta model, was how do you increase resources? How do you use that to find resources? Because usually the presupposition behind all the therapeutic models was that if you dig deep enough into the past or into what happened to you, you will have some catharsis and you will feel better. That is sometimes the case, many times it is not, because once you have arrived at the heart of a problem, then what you need is to identify what type of resources, emotional, physical, mental, what can you say to yourself to feel better, what kind of resources can we add so that you can deal with that problem much more efficiently. And on this one, my personal experience with all the patterns from the meta model, I would say the one that opens, at least my mind the most, is what would happen if. The thing that was used initially to challenge the model operators of possibility or necessity. So I must do this, I must not do that, I must not talk like this, I should do this, I should not do that. Okay, all of those should not, can't, cannot, I need to, I don't need to. Just challenge them with what would happen if opposite. So I can't lose weight because I don't believe I can. What would happen if I finally believed I could? What would happen if I had already lost weight? What would happen if I could find the right person to coach me to lose weight? What would happen if? And you just go on a whole tangent with as many solutions as you can possibly think about right now to notice how can that solution resolve itself. And what would happen if, from my experience again, is the best one to increase resources, to find new resources, or to call again some old resources you had in the past and maybe no longer have access to. But how can you find access to this again? Or if it has to go through asking to one person, okay, what would happen if I could finally ask that person for help, like if you need a coach or anything, or what would happen if I had finally uncovered the solution to change that one thing in my life. And with this one, you just open so many more possibilities than you thought were available to you at this specific point. So as a reminder, if you want a whole course on the meta model I had designed for simplification, you have one down below that I have created some years ago and is no longer on my website website because I think I can produce better things right now, but therefore you can have it for free if you're interested. Just down below in the description, first link, you have this, and if you like it, please tell me. If you have some more questions or you would like some more clarification, definitely ask me if you have anything like this. And thanks a lot for watching. I will see you soon in the next video.